In a show of jostling for power, a new Sudan coalition including political parties, armed movements, civil society leaders and the rapid support forces signed a founding charter aimed at establishing a parallel peace and unity government. This weeks after the Sudanese army chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan announced he will form his own technocratic government. Ugandan opposition figure Kizza Besigye appears in court in the East African nation's capital, Kampala, amidst concerns over his health following his hunger strike in protest over his detention. Besigye is facing the death penalty on treason charges. And Burkina Faso's military leader Ibrahim Traoré and the president of Chad, Mahamat Deby, officiate the opening of the 29th edition of the Pan-African Film and Television Festival of Ouagadougou, FESPACO. Watch World of Africa at these times on WION World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Vielleicht nur als imposant.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Kampir. Let's get started. Our top story tonight on Gravitas focuses on the Russia-Ukraine war. We get you the latest from on the ground, a lot happening there. Also, as Ukraine is set to sign a deal with the US over rare earth minerals, the question being asked is the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky surrendering to Donald Trump? We unpack this and more in just a bit. And here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. We take you inside Donald Trump's crazy new fantasy world and tell you all about what's also happening with the White House's social media accounts. You do not want to miss this. Is this the beginning of the end of Elon Musk? We tell you why this question is even being asked. All this and lots more coming up. We are starting off with news of heavy fighting coming in from Ukraine. The Russian forces in the latest have launched a multi-pronged attack. Russian forces, in fact, are slowly tightening the noose around the eastern Ukrainian city of Pokrovsk. And now the Ukrainian troops have launched a counterattack in the eastern Donetsk region. In fact, Kiev claims to have gained control over a village which is near a key transit artery and the logistics hub of Pokrovsk. Now, while Ukraine is stubbornly defending the city of Pokrovsk, its encirclement or fall could actually put Russia in a rather strong position to mount attacks in several directions in the east and also increase pressure on Kiev at a critical juncture in the war. And Russia, in fact, has also increased the intensity of attacks recently, targeting Ukrainian supply lines in attacks in Kursk, in an effort to regain territory it has lost ahead of peace talks. And in recent days, Russian forces have unleashed heavy firepower on the region. A loss of Kursk would actually leave Zelensky without any bargaining chip, as and when the negotiations begin, and that is how crucial these developments are. Ukraine, remember, launched a surprise military operation in Kursk in August 2024. And Russia has since recaptured approximately 40% of the seized territory. And the Russian forces have also shifted tactics in Kursk in a way. And their recent attacks have been focused largely on cutting off Ukraine's only resupply route from Sumy Oblast in northeastern Ukraine. Not just that, Moscow has used armored vehicles to break through the defenses on the left flank of Ukraine-controlled areas. And with those developments in the backdrop, a deal is on the table, a rather crucial one. Ukraine is set to sign a deal with the US for handing over its rare earth minerals, critical for aerospace and defense. Just weeks ago, President Zelensky rejected the offer, remember, refusing to sell his country in a way. And now, under mounting pressure from Donald Trump, he has relented. But what exactly does Ukraine really gain from all of this? Take a look.
Ukraine is under intense attack. These images show the deadly devastation in Kyiv as Russia fired a barrage of 177 drones.
We heard a sound fitting for a Shahid drone. It got closer, closer, closer. I started screaming, "Children, to the corridor, now!" They ran out and there was an explosion. Something started falling from the exterior of the house. I thought that our house was hit. Husband said, "No, it is the house across the street. It is on fire."
Not just Kyiv, Russian forces also targeted Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv. Moscow stepped up drone attacks in Kherson as well. The city has been at the front line since the beginning of the war. Russian forces are also advancing rapidly in eastern Ukraine, demolishing Ukrainian defenses. Images from the Russian Defense Ministry show heavy firepower being used to pummel Ukrainian frontline positions. With its territory diminishing and support from its allies waning, Zelensky has decided to make a deal with Trump. Officials in the Ukrainian capital said President Zelensky will travel to the US to sign the accord. It comes after the new Trump administration demanded access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals to compensate for billions of dollars of wartime aid.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that he's coming on Friday. Certainly, it's okay with me if he'd like to, and he would like to sign it together with me, and I understand that's a big deal, very big deal. And I think the American people, even if you look at polling, they're very happy because, Biden was throwing money around like it's cotton candy, and it's a very big deal. Look, it could be $1 trillion deal, it could be whatever, but it's rare earths and other things.
Zelensky had earlier declined a US draft agreement on valuable minerals such as titanium, beryllium and lithium used in the aerospace, defense and nuclear industries, claiming it did not contain security guarantees and came with the $500 billion price tag. Last week, Zelensky firmly said he won't sell Ukraine in a US resources deal. In return for giving up its precious minerals, Ukraine has insisted on security guarantees that it needs to deter any potential Russian aggression in the future. But it is not clear how much Trump will give in return.
For the United States to try to extract $500 billion in mineral resources from Ukraine after giving Ukraine about $60 billion in aid is an absolute absurdity. Not only is it obviously completely lopsided,
Trump has expressed a desire to bring about a ceasefire in the Russia-Ukraine war as soon as possible. His rapid moves to repair relations with Moscow have raised fears in Kyiv and among its European allies that they could be sidelined. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And now some bizarre developments. US President Donald Trump has shared an AI-generated video of Trump Gaza. In fact, the video includes images of Gaza turned into a futuristic city where there is shiny Trump Tower and giant Trump statues. The video has been shared by official Instagram account of the American president. The AI-generated video of his vision for the embattled Gaza Strip. The video basically shows Trump, Elon Musk and Benjamin Netanyahu. Trump had said earlier this month, remember, that he wanted to take over the embattled Strip and turn it into, quote-unquote, the Riviera of the Middle East, drawing back from his ally Israel and drawing backlash from his ally Israel and strong criticism from Hamas and the Arab world. But this is the reality. There is death, destruction just about everywhere. Today in Gaza, everywhere there are mounds of rubble pretty much, stretching as far as the eye can see. These are remnants of the longest and deadliest war between Israel and Hamas in their blood-ridden history. More than 46,000 Palestinians have been killed inside Gaza by Israeli attacks, according to health officials in the territory. Most of the dead are civilians, in fact, and the total represents about 2% of Gaza's pre-war population, or 1 in every 50. About 1.9 million people have been displaced since the war started.
Look at this. This situation is just terrifying. There is a risk it would fall on the little kids and kill them. Even when lying on the ground at night, we cannot sleep, fearing that something might happen at any moment, especially worrying about the roof collapsing and killing us. Look around you.
And despite this, many residents insist on remaining among the ruins, hoping that international organizations will provide them with the assistance to clear the debris and expedite the reconstruction efforts in the area. Palestinian medics saying that at least 6 infants have lost their lives from hypothermia in the last 2 weeks in the Gaza Strip. The territory experiences cold, wet winters, by the way, with temperatures dropping below 10 degrees Celsius at night and storms blowing in from the Mediterranean Sea. The last few days have been especially cold.
Rainwater and sewage have entered our tent, severely affecting our lives. With the drainage system being destroyed, the cold weather and the lack of clean drinking water, Viruses are spreading rapidly. Today, I took my daughter to the hospital. The doctor told me that the unclean drinking water and the sudden drop in temperature are the biggest cause of her illness.
The ceasefire that paused 16 months of the war between Israel and Hamas militants has basically allowed a surge in humanitarian aid. The trucks carrying aid are mostly carrying food. But residents say there are still shortages of blankets and warm clothing and little wood available for fires. There has been no central electricity in Gaza since the first few days of the war, and fuel for generators is scarce. Many families huddle on damp sand or bare concrete. And speaking of Trump's bizarre new fantasy world, there is something rather intriguing happening with the White House social media accounts as well. They have been heavily relying on memes, internet trends, and AI-generated images and videos to basically promote support for the Trump administration's policy plans. Most recently, the White House's Instagram account shared an AI-generated image, basically showing Trump with a crown, accompanied by a slogan that said, quote unquote, "Long live the king." The caption of this post said, and I'm quoting, "Congestion pricing is dead. Manhattan and all of New York is saved. Long live the king," quote unquote. Now, just some context here. The Trump administration had decided to rescind New York City's congestion pricing program. This program, which basically aimed to financially support the city's aging public transportation network, had been a point of contention between the Trump administration and the local officials. And this post has faced criticism for appearing to violate US constitutional values in its depiction. And then on 14 February, on Valentine's Day, White House's Instagram account posted a meme featuring the faces of the president and his border czar, Tom Homan, with the caption that read, I'm quoting, "Roses are red, violets are blue. Come here illegally and we will deport you." Just like the protests that followed Trump's aggressive anti-immigration crackdown, the White House's post received major backlash. Many called it insensitive, disgusting. The White House's social media account also has been using the platform to attack private citizens and celebrities. But for what, you ask? For basically expressing their opinion on immigration. Earlier this month itself, the White House shared a clip featuring 3 women whose children were allegedly murdered by illegal aliens, quote unquote, a term used for undocumented immigrants. And in the caption, the White House said, and I'm quoting here, "Their courageous mothers had something to say to Selena Gomez and those who oppose securing our borders." Shocked enough yet? There's more still. A week ago, the White House posted a 41-second ASMR video showing someone getting deported. For the unversed, ASMR is a term typically used to describe satisfying sounds that bring enjoyment in a way to listeners. These videos often showcase mundane tasks like tapping a glass, cutting vegetables, for example, or crinkling newspapers. Some people enjoy watching or rather listening to ASMR videos to relax or even fall asleep. So it's no surprise here that the ASMR video depicting someone being shackled and deported was not well received on social media. Netizens criticized the White House for what they called dehumanizing and ridiculing migrants. And while the use of memes on government platforms is not new, this situation raises a lot of concern about the impression that it leaves on the youth and the young voters. Younger people, you see, are consuming news a lot differently than ever before. And naturally, when a platform that could be used to provide policy updates, celebrate cultural events, starts to resemble a troll page, it becomes a cause for concern. Critics argue that Trump is straddling a fine line between parody and disinformation. And the question still is, where do you really draw the line in political communication like this? Our next story is about the decline and coming fall of Elon Musk. The world's richest man is in a way turning poor. He is not only losing friends, he is losing money as well. As US President Donald Trump's government efficiency czar, Musk seems to be making more enemies as time passes by, and as a result, Trump loyalists are turning sour on Musk. Canadians are petitioning to revoke Musk's citizenship. Tesla sales have halved in Europe. And now it turns out he is not even the head of the Department of Government Efficiency as such. That newly formed department that is known to be the brainchild of Elon Musk. So clearly a lot is going on here. Is this the beginning of the end for Elon Musk is the immediate question. Just have a look at what's really happening. On Tuesday, a group of 21 civil servants with technology expertise resigned rather than help implement an array of changes to the federal government being pushed by Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency. They said that they do not want to use their technical expertise to dismantle critical public services. Their joint resignation letter said, and I'm quoting here, "We swore to serve the American people and uphold our oath to the Constitution across presidential administrations. However, it has become clear that we can no longer honor those commitments," quote unquote. And the employees also warned that many of those enlisted by Musk to help him slash the size of the federal government do not have the necessary skills or experience for the task ahead of them. The mass resignation of engineers, data scientists, designers, product managers marks a setback for Elon Musk as well as for the Trump administration's efforts to basically purge the federal workforce. And this also comes amid a series of court challenges that are aimed at either stalling or stopping attempts to fire and force thousands of government workers out of their jobs. And now protests against Elon Musk are also impacting Tesla's sales. The allure of owning a Tesla seems to be diminishing. For years, the brand has been closely associated with Musk and his commitment to addressing the climate crisis. However, recently, Musk has invested hundreds of millions of dollars in support of Donald Trump, who has promised to increase domestic oil and gas production. As a result, former proud Tesla owners are reportedly expressing their dissatisfaction, saying they no longer enjoy driving their Teslas. On Tuesday, data from the European Automobile Manufacturers Association revealed that Tesla sales in Europe nearly halved last month. The Texas-based car maker sold 9,945 vehicles in January, a decrease of 45% from last year's total of 18,161, a major difference. And analysts are now reportedly trying to just understand how much customer discontent stemming from Musk's involvement in politics is actually affecting the brand. On the same day that these figures were released, reports suggested that a Canadian petition to revoke Musk's citizenship had gathered over 250,000 signatures. Canadian citizens have signed a parliamentary petition urging their government to revoke Musk's citizenship. The petitioners claim that Musk's association with President Trump, who plans to impose a 25% tariff on all Canadian imports next month and has proposed annexing Canada as the 51st state, in a way, goes against the national interest of Canada. The tech billionaire is a citizen of South Africa, Canada, and the United States, and he has become one of Trump's most visible allies since the president began his second term last month. And it's not just federal officials, by the way. Former Tesla owners and Canadians who are angry with Musk, even Trump loyalists, are reportedly pushing back against Musk's initiatives. An instruction by Elon Musk for federal workers to summarize their weekly activities or risk termination last weekend also prompted resistance among senior officials. And last Saturday, Musk announced on X that all government employees must outline what work they had done over the week, warning that failure to comply might be interpreted as resignation. However, some department officials responded by instructing employees to ignore the emails with directives coming directly from Trump appointees. Interestingly enough, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, ordered her staff not to respond, citing the inherently sensitive and classified nature of our work, quote unquote. The Pentagon also reportedly took a similar stance. Meanwhile, employees at the Department of Health and Human Services received conflicting guidance regarding Musk's request. And amid the backlash surrounding the weekly report requirement, Musk downplayed the controversy, calling the email a very basic pulse check, and shared a meme that compared his job security threats to vaccination mandates during the COVID-19 pandemic. And now, as it turns out, Musk is not even the head of the department. On Monday, a federal judge had a simple question for the Trump administration's lawyers. Is tech billionaire Elon Musk the Department of Government Efficiency's administrator? The Justice Department lawyer told the judge, and I'm quoting, "I don't have any information beyond he's a close advisor to the president," quote unquote. Later, after weeks of questions over who actually runs the department, the White House named Amy Gleason as the acting administrator. They did not provide additional details about her or when she was appointed. So all in all, is this the beginning of the end of Elon Musk? At this point, let's also tell you what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. US President Donald Trump has announced plans to introduce a $5 million gold card program for wealthy foreigners. We tell you what this is all about. We also tell you about the grand Mahashivratri celebrations taking place across India. How often do you end up grabbing a cup of tea? Can drinking tea help with heart health? We tell you what a study says. US President Donald Trump's first month in office has seen unprecedented action and disruption. A slew of aggressive policies, legal battles, controversial remarks have kept the world on edge. His approach to Ukraine, Gaza, other global issues is causing shockwaves. Take a look at our next report on how Trump is, in a way, remaking the new world order.
I will end the war in Ukraine, I will stop the chaos in the Middle East, and I will prevent World War III from happening, and you have no idea how close we are. The United States will once again consider itself a growing nation, one that increases our wealth, expands our territory, builds our cities, raises our expectations, and carries our flag into new and beautiful horizons. And we will pursue our manifest destiny into the stars, launching American astronauts to plant the stars and stripes on the planet Mars. Greenland is a wonderful place. We need it for international security. And I'm sure that Denmark will come along. I think it's costing them a lot of money to maintain it, to keep it. There are only two genders, male and female, and we will have no men participating in women's sports, and transgender operations, which became the rage, will occur very rarely. My message to every business in the world is very simple. Come make your product in America, and we will give you among the lowest taxes of any nation on earth. We're bringing them down very substantially, even from the original Trump tax cuts. The release of DeepSeek AI from a Chinese company should be a wake-up call for our industries that we need to be laser-focused on competing to win. We're also paving the way to ultimately provide India with the F-35 stealth fighters.
Attention on board. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please direct your attention out the right side of the aircraft. Air Force One is currently in international waters, the first time in history flying over the recently renamed Gulf of America. Please enjoy the flight, and we are now about to head westbound to Super Bowl 59.
You did that well. He refuses to have elections. He's low in the real Ukrainian polls. I mean, how can you be high with every city is being demolished? It's hard to be high. And the only thing he was really good at was playing Joe Biden like a fiddle. He played him like a fiddle. That's an expression we use, yes, sir, to say that he's pretty easy, A dictator without elections. Zelensky better move fast or he's not going to have a country left. Got to move fast, because
Last night, we told you about Israel provoking Syria. We asked if the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is searching for a third conflict zone. Things have now gone a step further. Israel launched a fresh wave of airstrikes on what it said were military sites inside Syria. A war monitor, in fact, said at least 2 people were killed by a strike on one of the sites, the headquarters of a military unit southwest of Damascus, reportedly. Israel's defense minister, meanwhile, described the strikes as part of a new policy aimed at demilitarizing southern Syria, also saying that any attempt by the Syrian regime forces and quote-unquote the country's terrorist organizations to establish themselves in the security zone in southern Syria will be met with fire. Remember, just for context, this comes days after Prime Minister Netanyahu called for demilitarizing the area. So what is known so far about the airstrikes? Israeli warplanes reportedly hit a town south of Syria's capital, as well as the southern province of Daraa late on Tuesday. The Israel Defense Forces have said the presence of military forces and assets in the southern part of Syria pose a threat to the citizens of Israel. The bombardment reportedly came hours after Syria condemned Israel's incursion into the country's south and demanded it withdraw, according to the closing statement of a national summit. Remember earlier, Benjamin Netanyahu had said Israel will not allow Syria's new army or the insurgent group that led the ouster of former President Bashar al-Assad to enter the area south of Damascus, as his government made clear Israeli forces would stay in parts of southern Syria for an indefinite period. Netanyahu's comments have triggered fresh concern over the Israeli presence in a part of southern Syria as Damascus's new leaders attempt to consolidate control after years of civil war. Israel has basically capitalized on the security vacuum as a result of the ouster of Bashar al-Assad. The new Syrian government has not confronted Israeli forces in Syria, and in a way, the Syrian military has little capacity for a fight with its heavily armed southern neighbor. And now, with the latest developments, the concern has only heightened. What happens next will have far-reaching implications for the entire region. On to the United States now. Foreigners will soon be able to buy U.S. residency and a pathway to citizenship. You heard that right. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced plans to introduce a $5 million gold card program for wealthy foreigners, granting them the right to live and work in the country with a pathway to citizenship. Now, just to contextualize this for you, this seeks to replace the current U.S. EB-5 immigrant investor visa meant for foreign job creators. And this also includes Russian oligarchs who would possibly be able to apply for the high-cost gold card via a new scheme, as per Donald Trump. Meanwhile, Russian media compared Trump with the leader of the dying Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, as they called Trump's ambitious Make America Great Again, or MAGA, the American perestroika. What does it mean? It means restructuring, and makes a direct reference to Gorbachev's economic policy for the Soviet Union. Let's just tell you more about Trump's plans first. Expanding on the benefits of the gold card, Trump told reporters that the new visas will actually bestow green card privileges, which means that on opting for them for about $5 million, foreigners could possibly be able to live and work in the US and even come close to becoming a US citizen. Now, who could qualify for the so-called gold visa? The president indicated that this scheme is supposed to target moneyed people as well as those who create jobs. And how exactly does he plan to go about it? According to his Commerce Secretary, the program would begin as soon as 2 weeks, where all applicants will be thoroughly vetted to ensure that they are wonderful, world-class global citizens, quote unquote. However, when asked if wealthy Russians could qualify, Trump replied in the positive and even said that some of them are very nice people, quote unquote. You have to listen to this.
Yeah, possibly. Hey, I know some Russian oligarchs that are very nice people. It's possible. They're not quite as wealthy as they used to be. They're not as wealthy as they used to be. I think they can afford $5 million.
Why is this noteworthy? Oligarchs basically are wealthy and politically connected business people who benefited from Russia's post-Soviet privatization. These are people who hold a lot of power and political influence. Even as many of these Russian oligarchs have reportedly been hit by sanctions from the West since Moscow's invasion of Ukraine 3 years ago. Moreover, in his last speech from the Oval Office in January, former US President Joe Biden warned of a rising ultra-wealthy oligarchy in America, posing a threat to the country's democracy. Biden had urged US citizens to defend institutions against powerful forces, quote unquote. Earlier, the Trump administration's Justice Department disbanded a Biden-era program aimed at seizing the assets of Russian oligarchs in order to punish Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. This was a key move under the new leadership of Attorney General Pam Bondi that signals a different approach in a way towards Russia and national security issues. And now this offer, which Trump predicts could be a money-making avenue for the government, poses a crucial question. Can Trump's policies be called the new perestroika? As per the Russian media, the similarities between the US president and the former president of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, are simply too hard to miss, especially as the two leaders discarded decades of established policies in their own countries to bring Moscow and Washington closer, and also introduced reforms in their respective countries. Economically as well, the US gold card visa proposal is poised to reduce US national deficit reportedly and attract more overseas investors. What will the larger implications be is the question. Let's now shift our focus to what's happening in Germany. The Alternative for Germany party, AfD, is celebrating its best ever result in the federal elections. It has doubled its vote share since 2021, in fact, with more than 10 million people picking them in this year's election. Interestingly, the AfD got most of its vote from Germany's eastern states. Almost all of the old East Germany has turned AfD blue, as you can see. The party has always been more popular in German areas once under Soviet rule. but this year has tightened its grip in the stronghold state of Thuringia. The AFD got more than 38% of the vote. Why and how, you wonder? That's the real story today. You see, 3.5 decades after German reunification, a line runs through Germany where the Iron Curtain once stood. A line that basically divides Germans by measures like income and unemployment. Here, Germans are feeling fed up and, in a way, ignored by mainstream parties. And as a result, have flocked to the far right. Some of that support is fueled by resentment that 35 years after Germany reunified, wages in the eastern parts of the country are still lower than the West. And people are increasingly disconnected from centrist politicians they feel don't understand them. Reports cite East Germans, citing migration, the economy, the war in Ukraine, as reasons for why they were supporting AFD. The divide between East and West, according to analysts, reflects not only a failure to fully integrate the East, but also its unique problems and culture shaped by decades of communist rule during the Cold War. Just have a look at this on your screen. It shows the unemployment rate in Germany. As you can see, it's higher in the East as far as disposable income per capita is concerned. And that's clearly lower in the East. And what this basically tells us is that Germans still to some degree inhabit two separate worlds in a way, East and West. According to German political pundits, many East Germans have never really connected emotionally or mentally with West German democracy. Very interesting. And on top of that, many of the metrics where Eastern Germany still lags behind the Western part are the very factors that make voters more likely to vote for the far right. And analysts say that the old Western parties were never that well established in East Germany. But the AFD is increasingly visible in these parts, and many members are active in civil society, including several mayors, which means even people who do not vote for the party come in regular contact with it. Moreover, while the two parts of the country have become more integrated, high-level politics has not. Of the 17 government ministers in the departing cabinet of Chancellor Olaf Scholz, only 2 were born in East Germany, and that in a way explains the difference and why East Germans voted for the AFD. Hindus across the world are celebrating Mahashivratri. The sacred festival falls on the 14th night of the lunar month when devotees fast, meditate and offer prayers, seeking Lord Shiva's blessings. In fact, Mahashivratri is deeply rooted in ancient legends. It's believed to mark the divine wedding of Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati, a celestial union that represents cosmic balance. This year's Mahashivratri holds even greater significance as it coincides with the conclusion of the Mahakumbh, the world's largest religious gathering. The festival started on the 13th of January, drawing crowds more than double the population of the US. According to the Uttar Pradesh government, 660 million pilgrims took the holy dip in the sacred city of Prayagraj at the confluence of the Ganga, Yamuna and the mythical Saraswati rivers. Devotees take ritual dips in the belief that the holy waters will end their cycle of rebirth. Today's final Amrit Snan marks the end of 6 weeks of devotion and spiritual awakening there. The holy city of Ayodhya, meanwhile, witnessed a massive influx of devotees on Mahashivratri as thousands gathered to offer prayers, chanting Har Har Mahadev. Similar scenes were witnessed in the ancient city of Varanasi. The Kashi Vishwanath temple opened all 4 of its gates in order to facilitate easier inflow for the devotees. Various akhadas, along with a large number of saints and Naga sadhus, take out a grand procession before offering prayers. Mahashivratri is being celebrated in neighboring Nepal as well, with a lot of devotion, prayer and rituals. The echoes of devotion transcending borders, uniting millions in the timeless worship of Lord Shiva. Let's now focus on the debate over whether AI will take your jobs. How many times have we heard that question being asked? And in the midst of all of that, Hong Kong has made a case recently where authorities said they will be cutting thousands of civil service jobs and boost spending in AI as it seeks to tackle an increasing deficit. During a budget speech, the Finance Secretary announced that there would be a cumulative reduction of government recurrent expenditure by 7% from now until 2027 to 2028. Now, this comes as Hong Kong's deficit had reached $87.2 billion Hong Kong dollars, which is basically $11.2 billion for the financial year of 2024 to 2025, making it the third straight year to register losses.
To cut down the expenditure growth of the government as the major means to achieve fiscal balance. That is why in the coming few years, up to 27, 28, cumulatively we will be able to slash public government expenditure by about 7%, and also cutting the establishment. So we do believe we have a plan, we have specific steps moving towards the right direction to achieve balance.
So what exactly are the plans of downsizing all about? It was said that almost 10,000 civil servant posts would be cut by April 2027, representing a reduction of about 2% of the civil service in each of the next 2 years. Moreover, salaries will also be frozen in the civil service this year. That's not even all. Chan also said that bonds worth up to 195 billion Hong Kong dollars, which is roughly $25 billion, will also be issued in the next 5 years to ensure progress of important infrastructure projects. As part of its income-boosting measures, Hong Kong plans to raise its airport departure tax from 120 Hong Kong dollars to 200 Hong Kong dollars from the third quarter of the year, basically representing a 67% increase. That's not all. Hong Kong also seeks to explore regulating basketball betting with the hope that betting duty could actually bring about 1.5 to 2 billion Hong Kong dollars. What explains this, you wonder? Hong Kong's finances have been impacted by a weak property sector as home prices plunged some 30% over the last 3 years. On top of that, it's also grappling with economic uncertainty as well as geopolitical tensions amid nose-diving US-China ties. Factors like these are increasingly pushing decision makers and top leaders to rely more on AI and invest in it. But how exactly does it plan to do so? Part of Hong Kong's agenda here is to leverage the strengths to develop it into an international exchange and cooperation hub for the AI industry. Apart from that, authorities have also earmarked 1 billion Hong Kong dollars, roughly $12.8 billion, for an AI research and development institute, and also plans to set up a 10 billion Hong Kong dollar innovation and technology fund to invest in emerging and future industries of strategic importance. In a rare piece of positive news for policymakers, the world's fastest aging country, South Korea, has recorded the first increase in its fertility rate in a decade, a sign that the country's demographic crisis might have turned a corner. South Korea, by the way, has the world's longest life expectancies and lowest birth rates, a combination that represents a major demographic challenge. And preliminary data from Statistics Korea shows that the country's fertility rate, the average number of babies a woman is expected to have during her reproductive life, stood at 0.75 in 2024. The birth rate fell for the 8th consecutive year to 0.72 in 2023, the lowest in the world, from 1.24 in 2015, raising concerns of the population crisis in South Korea. In total, 238,300 babies were born in 2024, an increase of 3.6% from the previous year.
The number of marriages delayed due to the coronavirus has increased significantly, and the increasing trend continues. And there was a change in social value with more positive views about childbirth.
In a move to maintain population stability, Seoul has poured billions of dollars into efforts to encourage women to have more children. The South Korean government offers cash subsidies, babysitting services, and support for infertility treatment. But the number of births has, until now, continued to decline.
I think the news of the birth rate rebounding after 9 years is incredibly joyful for me as a citizen of South Korea. I hope that this rebound will be the starting point for a continuous increase in South Korea's birth rate in the future.
And despite the rise in births, South Korea's fertility rate remains well below the 2.1 children needed to sustain its population of 51 million. And at the current rates, experts predict the population will nearly halve to just 26.8 million by 2100. Shifting focus for now, are you a tea lover? Well, your cup of tea might be more than just a refreshing beverage. A new study from Northwestern Engineering reveals that tea can actually naturally filter heavy metals like lead from water. The metal particles stick to the tea leaves, trapping toxins before they reach your body. And the longer you steep, the better it works. Black tea, fine ground leaves, and overnight brews remove even more contaminants. And it's not just the tea or tea bag matters as well. Cellulose bags absorb more metals and do not release microplastics, making them a smarter choice. And researchers say a simple cup of tea could remove up to 15% of lead from water, a small change that could have a big impact on your health over time. While tea is not a replacement for clean water, of course, it's a bonus benefit for tea lovers everywhere. So pour yourself a cup, steep a little longer, and drink to improve your health, as per the researchers. A chilling video has emerged on social media where a Southwest Airlines Boeing 737-800 passenger jet suffered a near collision with the Challenger 350 business jet. Have a look at these visuals. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. I'm Molly Gambhir signing off, leaving you with Gravitas Worldview as